My name is Alex. I'm 42. I live alone now, in a one-bedroom rental above a bakery where the mornings smell like burnt sugar and regret. But 5 years ago, I had something else. Something I thought was a future. Back then, I was still in Omaha. I ran my own auto shop on the edge of town. Axle repairs, busted transmissions, tires the size of children. It was honest work. Greasy, thankless, but it paid the bills and made me sleep deep. I didn't come from money. Everything I owned, I bought with scarred hands. Then she walked in. Mandy. She needed a new alternator. Drove up in a rust-bitten SUV with a cracked windshield and 3 empty juice boxes rolling under the seats. She had hair like fire and a voice like gravel. Said she was done with boys. I didn't know what that meant. I offered her a discount and my number. She took both. 2 months later, I was in her kitchen helping Kayla with a science project. Paper mache volcano. I remember the smell, vinegar and baking soda, sour and sharp. Josh was on the floor building a Lego fort. Zach sat on the couch, headphones on, eyes locked on some game. They barely looked at me. I didn't blame them. Their father was long gone. Left Mandy after Josh was born. No alimony, no weekend visits. Just a handful of old photos and a surname none of them would ever say out loud. She told me once, in bed, that he sent a birthday card to Kayla when she turned 6. No return address, she'd said. She ripped it up before I could read it. I thought I could be different, not better, just there. So I moved us into a new place. Mandy picked it from a real estate app, a 2-story colonial with weathered siding and a cracked driveway. I paid the down payment, paid the closing costs, paid for the painter, the plumber, the roof guy. Mandy didn't ask. She didn't have to. She called it a fresh start. And I clung to that phrase like a lifeline. We didn't talk about the financials. I took care of the big stuff, mortgage, utilities, groceries, the second car we needed because Zach was starting high school across town. She covered the everyday things. Or so she said. I never asked what that meant. For a while, it felt like something real. Not perfect, but whole enough. I built them rooms. Zach's had black curtains and posters of bands I'd never heard of. Kayla's had fairy lights and a vanity mirror I mounted myself. Josh's was full of glow-in-the-dark stars, the kind that fall off after a few months. I cooked pancakes on Sundays. I helped with homework, paid for field trips, sat through recitals where half the kids forgot their lines. I fixed things, not just in the house, in their lives. I replaced what their father abandoned. And for a little while I thought they saw me. Not as a dad, maybe, but as someone trying. Josh used to wait by the window when I came home. He'd wave. Run to the door in socks too big for his feet. Kayla would ask me to test her math flashcards. Zach at least would grunt when I asked about his day. It wasn't warmth, not really, but it was something. But time does strange things to a house. Cracks spread under paint. Smiles dry up. Words lose weight. It started with Kayla. Subtle. She stopped saying thank you. Started calling me Alex with a clipped edge, like the name tasted wrong in her mouth. One day I gave her $20 for a school fundraiser and she took it without looking up. Not even a nod. Josh followed. Not all at once, little things. He used to call me Alex, like it had 2 syllables, like it meant something sweet. But then it was just, hey, not rude, just empty, like I'd been demoted to background noise. Zach never pretended. He stayed cold. Arms crossed at dinner, earphones always in. If I asked about school, he'd shrug. If I asked about chores, he'd pretend not to hear. One time I offered to help him fix a busted laptop. He told me he already texted someone who actually knows what they're doing. I'm a mechanic. I rebuild engines from the ground up. But apparently I wasn't qualified to touch his keyboard. I asked Mandy about it one night. We were sitting on the back porch. It was summer. The air smelled like rain and cut grass. They're just teenagers, she said. You're taking it too personally. I wasn't. I was taking it exactly as personally as it felt. It wasn't teenage mood swings. It was silence, practiced, deliberate. It was the way they looked through me instead of at me. Like I wasn't a man trying to build a family. Just some guy fixing the garbage disposal. At dinner, I'd ask a question and get no answer. Mandy would chew her food, eyes on her plate. Sometimes Josh would say, "Mom, can I be excused?" Without even acknowledging that I was the one who bought the groceries, cooked the meal, cleaned the plates. She'd say yes. He'd leave. Sometimes I'd test it. Say nothing. Just sit, eat, listen. I wanted to see if they'd notice. They never did. I remember one night, early spring. Zach came home late, smelled like pot. I confronted him. Not angry, just direct. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You're not my dad," he said. "You don't get to tell me anything." Mandy heard. She didn't say a word. She just folded laundry on the couch like it wasn't her son, spitting in the face of the man who paid the mortgage. I went to the garage that night, spent 2 hours rearranging tool drawers just to hear something other than silence. After that, I stopped offering rides. Let them find their own way to school. Let their stuff sit on the porch when they left it in the rain. Mandy didn't notice. Or maybe she did. Maybe she just didn't want to deal with it. She'd started saying things like, "They've been through so much," as if trauma justified cruelty. As if I hadn't been through anything. Standing in that house every night like a ghost in steel-toed boots. I stopped calling it home. Started calling it the house. I didn't realize how deep the rot went until the thermostat broke. Middle of winter. I came home and the place was freezing. Mandy was wrapped in blankets on the couch. The kids were in hoodies. "You didn't notice?" I asked. She shrugged. "I figured you'd fix it." Of course she did. That was my job. Fix it. Pay it. Carry it. Even if no one said thank you. Even if no one looked up. Even if no one cared that I was bleeding in 1,000 ways just to keep the lights on. I started tracking expenses. Not for revenge, not then. Just for clarity. I wanted to see the truth in numbers. Over 5 years, $68,000 in mortgage payments. $12,400 in car insurance. Mostly Zach's. $9,800 in groceries. $4,200 in orthodontics. $2,300 in dance lessons. $1,700 in streaming services and data plans. $18,000 in household repairs. Another $7,000 in random, undocumented expenses, school supplies, birthday gifts, gas money. Total, over $120,000. All in my name. All in service of a family that no longer saw me. One night, I asked Mandy if she wanted to go out. Just the two of us. She said she was tired. Said Josh had a fever. I offered to stay with him. Told her to go see her sister or get some air. She said no. Said maybe next week. Next week never came. I started sleeping in the spare room. Told her my back was acting up. Truth was, I couldn't lie next to someone who let me vanish piece by piece and never reached for me. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It just hangs there, like dust in a sunbeam. You can't grab it, but you can feel it settle on everything. I wasn't their father. I wasn't her partner. I was the scaffolding. And I knew one day they'd tear me down, once the house stood well enough without me. It happened on a Tuesday. Gray skies. A rattling in the furnace that I told myself I'd fix over the weekend. I came home early. Exhaust leak in the shop. Sent the crew home while I cleaned it out. Pulled into the driveway just before 3. No one saw me. They never looked out the window. The house was quiet in that eerie, artificial way. The kind of silence that tells you you're not alone. I stepped inside and heard them in the kitchen. I should have made noise. Should have cleared my throat, dropped my keys. But I didn't. I stood in the hallway just out of view. Zach's voice first. Flat. Amused. "Alex thinks he's like our stepdad. It's hilarious." Then Kayla. "He just pays for everything." Mom literally said that. Josh chimed in, casual. "This is our house. He's just some guy fixing stuff." They laughed. All 3 of them. Not with venom. With ease. With comfort. Like they'd said it before. Like it was the punchline to a joke they'd all memorized. My body didn't move, but something inside me did. A shift. A crack. Quiet, clean, final. I walked out the front door and sat in my truck. It was cold. The engine ticked quietly. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I sat there for 2 hours. I watched the porch light come on. I watched Zach toss a basketball in the driveway like nothing had happened. I watched Mandy pull in with groceries, walk past me without noticing. I watched the family I paid for move around me like I was air. When I finally stepped back inside, I said nothing. Ate dinner in silence. Mandy asked how work went. I said, fine. Kayla scrolled through her phone. Josh left early, muttering something about homework. Zach didn't show up at all. That night, I opened a new spreadsheet. Started fresh. Every bill. Every dime. Itemized. Mortgage. Property tax. Homeowner's insurance. Internet. Gas. Electricity. Water. Groceries. Car maintenance. Dance academy. Tutoring sessions. Kayla's orthodontist. Josh's asthma medication. Zach's car insurance under my name with my credit holding the weight. Streaming subscriptions, school fees, sports equipment, birthday parties, laptops, phones. The summer camp in Colorado they said they couldn't live without. Line by line, I built the ledger of my own erasure. Over 5 years, $352,614. 27. That didn't count sweat. That didn't count time. That didn't count the nights I worked late to cover surprise field trip forms or the winter jackets that showed up last minute. That didn't count Mandy's job loss 2 years back. The one she swore was temporary. I covered everything without a word. I thought that's what a man did. I didn't track Mandy's contributions, because there weren't any to track. She stayed home. That was the deal. Take care of the kids. Keep the house. I didn't ask for more. Just a partner. Just someone who'd stand beside me while I carried the load. Instead, she drifted. Like furniture. Present, but unmoving. I started recording things. Not for revenge. Just to make sure I wasn't crazy. Voice memos. Conversations. Little fragments of proof. One night Mandy told her sister on the phone, Alex is basically a walking wallet. She laughed when she said it. I saved that file. Still, I might have kept going. I'm not proud of that. I might have swallowed it all. Kept showing up out of duty or fear or whatever keeps men locked in thankless homes. But then came the airport. I planned a trip. My idea. Spring break. A beach, a real hotel, flights, not road trips and gas stations and folding chairs. I spent 6 months saving. Booked everything in advance. Even called the school to get permission slips for the kids. Josh had never flown before. I wanted to give him that. We made it to the terminal. Early morning. Fog curling across the tarmac. Everyone was quiet, half asleep. We reached security, and the TSA agent asked about the kids. Mandy stepped forward. Her voice was flat, bored. He's not their dad. Just escorting us. Just escorting us. Zach kept walking. Kayla didn't turn. Josh was fiddling with his backpack. Not one of them looked back. Something inside me stilled. Not broke, not yet. Just stopped. I handed over the boarding passes. One by one. But I kept mine. Let them go. I watched them disappear into the crowd. Mandy never looking back. The kids laughing at something on Kayla's phone. Then I walked out. I didn't call. I didn't explain. I drove home. Sat in the empty living room. And turned off my phone. Listened to the refrigerator hum. Listened to the silence they'd left behind. And for the first time in 5 years, I realized it was mine. They came back 3 days later. Tired. Sunburned. Kayla had a souvenir bracelet. Josh had a shark tooth necklace. Zach had a new pair of shoes. Probably charged to my card. Mandy asked why I didn't come. I told her I didn't want to intrude. She laughed. Like I was being dramatic. You're part of the family, Alex. I didn't respond. That night, I printed the spreadsheet. All 37 pages. Stapled each section. Labeled every column. I pulled up the audio files. Loaded the most important ones onto a thumb drive. Labeled it Truth. The next day, I waited until the kids were at school. Mandy was home. Folding laundry. Watching daytime TV like she didn't have a man 2 feet from her drowning in silence. I turned off the TV. Set the binder on the table. Set the drive next to it. Listen, I said. She did. To their voices. Her voice. Every offhand comment. Every dismissal. When it ended, she stared at the table like it might open up and swallow her. I pushed the binder toward her. That's what it cost me. To be invisible. She reached for my hand. I didn't let her. I told her I was buying out my share of the house. Removing my name from the utilities. Closing the joint accounts. I told her I'd drafted everything with a lawyer. All legal. All clean. They want me to know my place? I said. I do. My place is somewhere I'm respected. She cried. Of course she did. But it was the kind of crying you do when you're losing comfort. Not love. She asked if we could talk to the kids. Maybe they didn't mean it. I looked her dead in the eyes. They meant it. You all did. You just didn't expect me to believe you. I packed that night. Not much. My tools. A few clothes. Some pictures, not of them. Just me. Just proof that I'd existed. I left the keys on the counter. No note. No goodbye. A week later, Mandy called. Said the kids were confused. Said they didn't understand. I didn't answer. A few days after that, she texted, "We miss you." I replied, "No, you miss the way I carried you." Then silence. Then bills. Mandy couldn't afford the mortgage. The house sold within 2 months. They moved in with her mother. A woman who once told me, "You're too soft for 3 kids." Zach lost his car insurance. Got into an accident 2 weeks later. Kayla was dropped from dance. Josh's tutor stopped showing up. They called. Left voicemails. "You were like a dad to us. We didn't think you'd actually leave. Why are you doing this?" Not once, "We're sorry." Not once, "We were wrong." They didn't want me. They wanted what I gave. They learned too late. You can't spit on a man and still drink from his hands. I drove west. Got a cheap place near Denver. Took a job fixing trucks, no desk, no drama. My hands hurt, but my heart doesn't. One night, I watched the sunset over the Rockies and realized I didn't owe anyone anything. They'd asked, "Who are you, really?" Now I had an answer. Someone who walked away. And that's the day I stopped being their scaffolding. That's the day I became free. Mandy called 3 days after I left. Blocked number. I picked up without thinking. Old habits. Her voice was raw. Not from grief. From inconvenience. "Alex. You didn't tell me the accounts were frozen." I didn't answer. Let the silence sit heavy in her throat. She tried again. "I went to buy groceries and the card got declined." I said nothing. Just listened. She filled the space with panic. "Did you shut off everything? The utilities are behind. There's notices. The insurance. Alex, Zach needs the car insurance." I hung up. Not out of spite. Out of principle. We'd played pretend long enough. I gave them half a decade of steady hands, open wallet, closed mouth. The moment I asked for dignity, they vanished behind teenage sarcasm and adult silence. So I gave them what they asked for. Nothing. Took about 2 weeks for the cracks to show. Zach called me from a different number. I didn't answer. Left a message. Said he wasn't trying to start anything. Just needed my help with the car. It was due for inspection, and without my name on the policy, he couldn't renew the plates. He ended the voicemail with, "You're still gonna help, right?" Like none of it had happened. Like respect was optional. I blocked the number. Kayla texted me late one night. Short. Impersonal. Like sending a message to a landlord. "Need login for Netflix. Still says it's your email." That was it. No greeting. No signature. No "how are you?" Just a hand reaching into the empty space, expecting it to be full. I deleted it. Then came Josh. A letter. Handwritten, sloppy, like he rushed through it so Mandy wouldn't see. Just 4 sentences. "I miss you. I don't like it here. Mom cries a lot. Kayla said you hate us. Do you?" He was 11. The only one who hadn't said the words out loud. But he'd laughed. That day in the kitchen. Laughed like I was a joke. And a joke doesn't get forgiven. It just gets forgotten. I didn't reply. I thought about it. Drafted a dozen versions. but none of them felt right. How do you explain to a child that kindness only matters when it's mutual? That night, I poured myself a drink and opened the spreadsheet again. Not because I needed the numbers, because I needed the reminder. Every line told a story. Dance tuition, canceled. Tutoring fees, canceled. Data plans, canceled. Mortgage auto debit, closed. Health insurance add-ons, removed. I watched their scaffolding crumble in real time, like termites hollowing out the frame. Only now the damage was visible. Mandy sent another voicemail. This time her voice was different, tight, controlled, like she'd rehearsed it. I'm trying to hold things together, but the house is too expensive on my own. I'm looking for a job, but everything takes time. We might have to sell. She paused. You could at least help with that. She meant the mortgage. She meant the debt that bore both our names. I didn't respond. I'd already signed over my share. My lawyer sent the documents by courier the day after I left. My name was gone from the deed, from the tax records, from everything. It was her house now, and she could choke on it. 2 months later, it hit the market. I checked the listing online. The realtor had taken flattering photos, wide angles, golden light. You couldn't tell that the walls were thin with tension, that the air still smelled like burnt dinners and unsaid apologies. They sold it under asking. Moved in with Mandy's mother, the same woman who used to say I wasn't a real father, who once asked why I spoiled kids that weren't yours. Now they were all in her basement. 3 generations stacked like regrets. Zach posted on social media photos from his new school, community college, commuter campus, no dorms, no freedom, no car. He'd been dropped from the insurance after missing payments. I saw someone comment, "What happened to your ride?" He replied, "Long story. Not that long, Zach. Just 5 years of taking without giving." Kayla stopped dancing. Her studio sent me an email, still had my contact on file. Said her enrollment was paused due to non-payment. Offered me a chance to settle the balance and reinstate her. I replied with 2 words, "Not interested." Josh started missing school. I got a call from a counselor. Again, old emergency contact info. She said he was disengaged, withdrawn. Not the same. Asked if I could come in. I told her I no longer lived there. Told her I was nobody, because that's what they wanted. Isn't it? To make sure I knew my place? Now they knew it too. Not in their home. Not in their lives. Not in their phones. And definitely not in their debts. Mandy tried one last time. She called from a number I didn't recognize. I picked up. By then, I was curious. "Alex," she said, quiet. "Can we talk?" I waited. She exhaled. "They miss you." "No, they don't," I thought. "They miss what I gave. Not who I was." "They didn't mean it," she continued. "They're just kids." No, they were old enough to know better. And she was old enough to stop them. But she didn't. She watched me get erased and said nothing. That kind of silence isn't passive. It's complicit. She said Zach was struggling. Kayla barely left her room. Josh cried in his sleep. Then she said the quiet part out loud. "I didn't realize how much you did." That was it. No apology. No accountability. Just revelation. Like she was the victim of a magic trick I'd been pulling in plain sight. "I thought things would work out," she whispered. "They did. For me." I hung up. She didn't call again. But others did. Her sister. Her mother. Even her ex, the ghost who skipped birthdays and court dates. Said he'd heard I left them hanging. And wanted to clear the air. I let him talk. Then I asked him if he was ready to pay back 5 years of debt. Of diapers and dentist bills. Of dance classes and broken phones. He laughed. So did I. Then I blocked him. The irony burned sweet. He was the real dad. The blood. The name on the birth certificate. But when the bills came due, he disappeared faster than smoke in wind. That's the part no one talks about. Stepfathers are expected to give everything and ask for nothing. Because you knew what you were signing up for. Did I? Did I know I was signing up to be the target of every unresolved resentment? Every wound from a man I never met? Did I know I'd be the one carrying them all while he got to be a memory, a story, a Christmas card? No. But now I know better. I saw Mandy once after that. Grocery store. I was visiting Omaha for a job. Needed new tires. She didn't see me, or maybe she did and looked away. She looked older. Tired in a way that sleep won't fix. She had 2 carts. Coupons. Kayla was with her. Dyed hair, dead eyes. Josh followed behind, dragging his feet. Zach wasn't there. I didn't approach. I just watched. They didn't look happy. Not sad either. Just hollow. Like a house stripped of paint. Like a family running on fumes. And maybe that's the lesson. When you treat a man like scaffolding, don't be surprised when the structure collapses after he's gone. I used to wonder if they'd learn. Now I don't care. Because sometimes, consequences are the only teacher left. A year has passed. I live in Denver now. 1-bedroom apartment over a repair shop. Smells like oil and steel, but it's mine. The air feels thinner here. Cold in the mornings. Honest. I don't fix family cars anymore. Just machines. Things that can be understood. Taken apart. Rebuilt. They don't lie to you. They don't laugh behind your back. They don't call you nothing after you've given them everything. Sometimes I work late just to keep my hands busy. It's quieter that way. Less time to think. But the thoughts come anyway. Usually at night. When the apartment is still and the street lamp buzzes outside the window. I lie awake and let the silence press in. Not like the silence in that old house. Full of judgment. Full of contempt. This silence is clean. Empty in a good way. Peaceful. I've met someone. Her name's Jenna. Teaches 2nd grade. No kids of her own. She laughs like she means it and says thank you every time I refill her coffee. She's kind. That's all. Just kind. You'd be surprised how rare that is. We're getting married in the spring. Small ceremony. No guests from Nebraska. She knows about Mandy. About the kids. I told her early on. Didn't want it to be a secret. She didn't flinch. Just listened. Held my hand while I spoke. She said, "That must have been hard." Not, "You should have stayed." Not, "They didn't mean it." Just recognition. That's all I ever wanted. Mandy never called again. Not after that last voicemail. Not after I hung up. I think she got it. Too late, maybe. But she got it. The house sold. They moved. Then they moved again. I stopped tracking the addresses. Stopped checking the social media accounts. But word still found me. Zach dropped out of college. Lost his job. Moved back in with Mandy's mother. Rumors said he blamed the system. Said he never had the support he needed. He meant me, of course. Always easier to blame the absence than admit you caused it. Kayla works nights now. Fast food. Says it's temporary, but she's been there 6 months. Still dances, I hear, but just for herself. No academy. No stage. No music, just headphones and routine. Josh is in therapy. The school flagged something: grades, attendance, behavior. Mandy signed him up for a counselor. Says he talks about me. Says he has dreams where I show up, then disappear. I know because the counselor reached out. Sent me a letter. Said she thought it might help Josh if I came in. Just once. Closure, she called it. I didn't reply. Not because I hate the boy. I don't. But because closure is a gift. And some people have to learn what it feels like not to get it. They spent 5 years building a world where I didn't matter. Now they live in it. I heard Mandy got a job. Call center. Low pay, long hours. She picks up shifts whenever she can. Her mother helps with the kids. But it's not the same. Her mother doesn't fix broken faucets or file tax returns or build science projects at midnight. Her mother doesn't sit in the passenger seat during driving tests or fight the insurance company when they drop coverage. Her mother doesn't stay. That was always the difference. I stayed. I stayed through the rolled eyes, the slammed doors, the birthday parties where I took the photo but never got in it. I stayed through the flu seasons and school pickups and quiet holidays where they all sat on their phones while I cleaned the kitchen. And when I finally left, they acted like I had broken something sacred. But it was already broken. I was just the last one willing to admit it. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed a little longer. If I'd confronted them, made them sit at the table, made them say it to my face. But then I remember that airport. I remember Mandy, looking at the TSA agent, saying, "He's not their dad." I remember how they all walked ahead without looking back. And I realized that was the answer. They had already said it. Now I just live accordingly. Jenna and I are saving for a house. Nothing big. 2 bedrooms, maybe 3. No kids. Just quiet. Porch. A yard. She asked once if I'd ever consider fostering. I said maybe, but the truth is, I don't think I have it in me anymore. Not because I'm bitter. Because I've learned what happens when you pour yourself into a well with no bottom. They don't remember the years. They remember the moment you say no. They remember the day you stop fixing things. They call it betrayal. But here's what I've learned. Sacrifice means nothing without respect. Nothing. If you give and give and give and they never say thank you, that's not a family. That's servitude. I walked away not because I stopped loving them. I walked away because they never started. People ask me now if I regret it. If I ever think about reaching out, trying again, rebuilding. I tell them the truth. I do think about it. And then I don't. Because sometimes survival looks like selfishness. But it isn't. It's clarity. Zach will survive. So will Kayla. So will Josh. They'll carry the stories they've told themselves. That I abandoned them, that I overreacted, that I should have stayed. But deep down they'll know. They'll remember every time they looked through me instead of at me. They'll remember what it cost them. They'll remember that once, there was a man who wasn't their father, but acted like one. Until they laughed. Until they forgot he was there. Until he finally wasn't. Now I ask you, and I mean this sincerely, was I wrong? Was I wrong to walk? Wrong to leave a house where my name paid every bill, but never earned me a seat at the table? Wrong to stop carrying people who never asked how much it weighed? You tell me. You sit where I sat. Listen to their laughter in the kitchen. Hear your name used like a joke. Feel your hand reach out only to grasp air. You live it. Then ask yourself, would you have stayed? Or would you have done what I did? Left with your name, and nothing else?